When I was a young archaeologist, I could never have imagined that one of my expeditions would lead me to the most terrifying discoveries of my life. It all started with a mysterious letter delivered to me at the department. It spoke of a sunken city that, according to legends, was cursed and hidden at the bottom of the ocean. I was fascinated. For many years, I had studied ancient civilizations and lost cities, but this story seemed special. The letter contained coordinates and a description of how to reach the supposed location. Gathering a team of the best divers and scientists, we set off. The journey took several weeks. We crossed the Atlantic Ocean and finally reached the specified point. Here, the water was astonishingly clear, and we could see the remnants of ruined buildings resting on the seabed. It was an incredible sight, and our team was full of enthusiasm. We set up a base on a small nearby island and began diving. The first thing we discovered was a massive marble structure that looked like a temple. Its columns were adorned with strange symbols that none of us could decipher. As we explored, we began to find other buildings, palaces, residential houses, and even stone-paved streets. The city was enormous and seemed to have once been bustling with life. But something was off. We began to feel an inexplicable sense of anxiety. One night when we surfaced, one of the divers, named Mark, began acting strangely. He said he had seen strange figures underwater watching him. We attributed it to fatigue and stress, but his condition worsened with each passing day. A few days later, Mark disappeared. We searched for him everywhere, but to no avail. His scuba gear and equipment were found at the entrance to the underwater temple. It was horrifying. We had lost a comrade, and his disappearance filled us with dread. I started studying the artifacts and records we had found, trying to find any explanations. One of the ancient texts contained a warning: those who disturb the peace of the city will be forever cursed. It sounded like a legend, but everything pointed to the curse being real. We decided to cease our research and leave this place. But as it turned out, it was not so simple. Every night, one of us would have nightmares of the sunken city's inhabitants rising from the depths and pulling us down. Our equipment began to malfunction, and our supplies of food and water quickly dwindled. One night we heard strange sounds coming from the depths of the ocean. It was not the usual sound of the sea, but something much more eerie, as if ancient beings were calling to us. We tried to leave, but our ship could not move. The engine stalled, and we were trapped on this cursed island. Fear gripped all of us. Each of us felt that this place had a life of its own and did not want to let us go. One night, while I was on watch by the fire, I saw a shadow slowly approaching our camp. It was Mark, but he was not as we remembered him. His eyes glowed in the dark, and his movements were unnaturally slow. Mark did not say a word. He just stood there, looking at us, then turned and walked towards the sea. We were in shock and did not know what to do. Following him would have been madness, but we could not leave him like this. The next day, we dived again, following the traces that might have been left by our missing team members. We found mysterious passages and tunnels leading into the depths of the underwater temple. It seemed as if they were specifically designed to lure us in. In the depths of the temple complex, we stumbled upon a vast underground lake. Its waters were black as tar and seemed to move. On the shore of the lake stood a huge stone monolith covered in ancient symbols. We approached and saw that scenes depicting ancient rituals were carved into the monolith. People were making sacrifices to some sea creatures, and it was a horrifying sight. We began to understand that the city had been destroyed not by chance, but because of its dreadful rituals. One of our divers, named Laura, touched the monolith. At that moment, something incredible happened. The water in the lake began to bubble, and enormous shadows rose from the depths. These were ancient sea monsters summoned by our ancestors. We ran back to the exit, but the tunnels began to collapse. In a panic, we barely managed to escape to the surface. Laura did not come out with us. We had lost another comrade, and it was the last straw. We decided to leave all the found equipment and documents on the island and try to reach the nearest settlement on lifeboats. Our journey was long and dangerous, but we managed to survive. When we returned to civilization, we swore not to tell anyone about our discovery. I knew that if people found out about the cursed city, they would want to explore it, leading to new tragedies.